Good evening, beautifuls. This is Mount Moon Medicine's channel, and I am Rainey Ford. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about this full moon in Leo that we are inside of at this moment. I'm coming to you on February 12th, 2025. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening, and so here that full moon process has already been underway. I want to talk a little bit about what that structure looks like at the moment. So we've got the full moon in Leo that's sitting down in the 24th degree, 24th degree of Leo. We're sitting in gate 29, 29 line 5 today. And so we're sitting here in this energy of half-heartedness and commitment. We're standing at that threshold where postponement, where that process of needing to slow down or be with nuances inside of a moment might be slowing down a process, might be creating blockages for us to be able to be deeply inside of our commitments. We might also be finding, so we've got square to this energy. So to one of the angles, we have Uranus sitting here. So Uranus, that aspect of catalyst, that awakening, that agitating to wake something up, to crack something open inside of us, is sitting over directly square, sitting in Taurus at the 23rd degree of Taurus. So it's like within a degree of being perfectly square. And it's also sitting in the 23rd gate key, line 5. And that one's about simplicity and complexity, right? And we have there this dilemma of timing and accumulation. And so it's like moments that get complicated or get a little heated, that get that way because of a wanting something now, wanting more of something, not having enough of something that we want. So it makes us want it more, and it makes us want it outside of a timing that is appropriate. For example, let's say we're sitting in the middle of February. We really want it to be warm and sunny and having potluck dinners and fires and community, and it's just not happening in the middle of February. And that frustration, that complexity that we can feel inside of ourselves has a wrapping with what is being brought up inside of ourselves to be seen, to be looked at, right? So that full moon and that Uranus and that full moon are kind of like amplifying each other. And so let me do one more aspect. Directly across from the moon, so in opposition, still square to Uranus and in opposition to the moon, we have both the sun and Mercury, and they are within a degree of each other. And they're sitting over in Aquarius. And we've got the sun sitting in gate 49, the gate of reaction and revolution. And that is based in a dilemma of needs. And so it's the tribal needs that make the reactions happen, that necessitate the need for a revolution. And Mercury is sitting right next to it in gate 30, which is a gate that is around the concepts of desire and lightness. You know, that desire, that aching, that longing for a thing that can have us miss the things that are right in front of us, that can have us long for something that's out of reach, that can have us pine away our life, our life force energy, our thinking energy, our feeling energy towards places that may not be giving us an ability to have a return. Where if we have a lightness in that process, right? And so that kind of desire can show up in our language for how we want something to be. And so we've got this energy of desire and revolution that are sitting in our language and in our what we're shining a light in the world. The way we are shining a light in the world in this very day, here on this full moon, is inviting revolution. It's inviting a whole new way of being. It's inviting commitment and revolution to stand up and hold hands together. What kind of revolution can we be committed to? Start with the internal. Let it ripple forth. Weigh in the integrity pieces. There's a feeling of electricity coursing through during these times. This full moon energy has a deep amplification behind it because it has the sun directly opposite of it, right? And so the sun and the moon are in this opposition where they're literally in opposition, opposite from each other. And you've got Uranus sitting here, kind of like in attention, equal attention to either side, creating this cataclysmic awakening to how we speak, how we allow ourselves to come off, which has a relation with authenticity. How do we allow ourselves to be seen? And that Uranus energy is also creating this deep catalysm towards how we relate with the world in an emotionally driven kind of way. That moon, that Leo full moon is shining in illumination. What is it illuminating inside of us? The thing that is wanting to be illuminated is the next places where we are to grow. It might be illuminating in a place that's kind of loud and boisterous. Um, if you've been working with it for a while, or you find yourself to be a Leo, you might find yourself highly amplified. You might also find yourself being like, I kind of know what's going on here. I feel it. I feel it. I'm moving and flowing with the grooves. In light of finding things that are of a practical application, things like good self-care in the forms of nourishing teas and lots of good rest and journaling, writing your thoughts down on paper, and be within yourself while your mind is moving through some of these cracking open concepts could be a really helpful thing in these times. Tonight I'm drinking an adrenal nourishing tea that I make here on the mountain. It's composed of different forms of nettle and oat straw and peach leaf and marshmallow leaves and mullein leaf and hibiscus and a little cardamom for a little bit of spice. And I put a healthy dose of rose elixir in here. Uh, Heart, the Leo aspect of things is all about the heart and courage and bravery. It's also boldness and brashness and a little bit of melodrama and nourishing that heart space while we're deep diving inside to discover what it is that really matters. What's really lighting us up? If you're looking at your astrology chart, any place where you have 23, 24 degrees of Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio, you may be feeling this full moon strongly. And you might be feeling it strongly over the course of the next 3 to 4 days to a week. We're actually going to be kind of tumbling our way through a series of alignments and aspects pretty much through the whole of this year. So don't be surprised to hear me repeatedly coming in and being like, okay, well, this week we've got this one. And so it's you'll find that the time seems to move perhaps a little bit funny, a little strange, a little differently than used to. In a sense, it actually is, and in the way we experience it, it can be helpful to understand that since we're making these big moves into Aquarius, and Aquarius has a lot to do with that element of air, it has to do with forward movement and technology and time and other sorts of modalities, that the fact that we feel time as different makes a lot of sense. So I invite you to be good to yourselves. I invite deep presence within yourself when you find yourself getting really triggered, getting really, really reactive. There's a little thing here I'd love to share with you. And it's around tracking our triggers. So there's so many nuances to emotions, right? Tracking our triggers gives us an ability to like see an aspect where we have the story of what's going on, and what we're trying to look for beyond the story is the like energetics in play, right? So like take a story of something that's painful or something that's agitating, that's activating, and let's pull away the names and the specific actions that were taken and just set them aside just for a second and look at things from the perspective of actions that were made, surface level emotions, relatively easy ones to see, These are the ones you hear, see, taste, feel inside yourself and or from another. And then you've got the anchoring emotions. And here's where the anchoring emotion and or belief can be very difficult to see. This is one where it's holding the story, a belief or an experience in place. It's what's not allowing it to be removed. It's where there's an identification with what is happening. It's something that is often best looked at over time through a kind of like sidling up to yourself and having a conversation like if you were a friend with it, because these are the kinds of things that have come into being in order to protect us oftentimes. And so they don't necessarily take well to simply being dismissed or waltzed in and told that they don't matter. Even if they may also be causing harm or be ineffective or be in outdated programming, it can still feel really, really personal. It's a great place to interject what I would call the pause game, putting a pause on a reaction and then the word spitting out, or a reaction and then an action that's happening. Because sometimes we might behave ourselves into places that we don't want to live. We might also, just to throw a devil's advocate into the mix, we might also find ourselves living into something that isn't actually aligned for us. So being in touch with those surface level emotions, the anchoring emotions and beliefs, the things that hold us attached into a thing. And then thirdly, the shifting emotion, what it is that we might need to help us shift the perspective, the belief, the story. And we're helping us to move it from deeply personal, deeply identified, it's all of who we are, to being something that's a little softer. We're able to identify that that was a feeling that was inside of us, that maybe it is passing through us, that it is not the totality of who we are, and therefore nothing else can exist. Because that is closing the mind's, the heart's walls that makes it difficult for us to be able to have deeper connections that we may want to have. So yeah, just wanted to leave you with that little piece that's a part of the rupture, freeze, thaw, repair system that I work with, where it looks at when we have a rupture, when we have a disagreement or a misunderstanding or something that gets flared and gets triggered either within ourselves and or within our relationships, that there is this sequence that tends to happen. Wherever there's a rupture, there's a freeze that happens. And that freeze is where we don't feel safe. Safety being defined as sovereign awareness. Okay. That's the entry point to sovereign awareness. We don't feel safe where we are not in a place of being able to be deeply aware of our own sovereignty enough to be able to, I don't even like that languaging. I need to stop myself right there. That kind of languaging leads to a stair step into self-judgment. So I need to wind that back around. When we can become aware of how those triggers sit inside of ourselves and have an attunement with that emotional reactivity that can move through our cells, we can have a greater opportunity to approach the situation from a place of curiosity as opposed to a place of judgment. And that place of judgment is often a thing that fires up the situation so much that it is difficult to be able to have a productive flow from there on out. And with that, I think I'm going to leave you for your week, and many blessings to your journey. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until soon.